Okay, hi everybody. I'm coming on a little bit earlier and the live streaming. Let me see if I can type that in real quick. We're at day 1,770 days on June 6, 2025. 1,770 days since they forcibly removed Richard from the barracks on Fort Bliss and took his life. And it was orchestrated, it was plotted, it was conspired, it was, they colluded together, they schemed together to do it. And why? He's distinguished honor graduate, wanted to be CID, fastest runner in his unit. You would ask him to do anything, he would do it without complaint. He was promoted 3 times with waivers before his peers. Very quickly, he got it. He was the guidon bearer, and he was also MAGA. He was also Christian. He was Christian, and he was MAGA, and he supported President Trump, and he supported the border wall, and he supported the investigations against the cartel-tied, the investigations into the cartel-tied criminal trafficking along the El Paso border. And he witnessed, he told us it was so bad. He was so bad. He witnessed and he reported. He reported to Child Protective Services. He was in communication with Washington, D.C., was in communication with IG. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday, okay? Quote unquote, the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. The barracks were absolutely a total mess. They were flush with weapons, with unauthorized weapons, and they were bringing in young girls. A 14-year-old girl living in the barracks for 4 months, being sold out for favors, and of course lots of videos of it all. And that would compromise many of our soldiers and of course our national security. They were up to no good. It was like Epstein Island right there on Fort Bliss. Epstein Island on Fort Bliss, Diddy's house on Fort Bliss. Let's just compromise our soldiers and our national security. That's what was going on. And so we have breaking news. We always have breaking news. Every day is breaking news. And I'm going to put this in about the and R, capital R, Chavira. Auto Group. Oh, I have to put El Paso Matters in there too. I'm typing away. There. Look. Let's just say, because we have this breaking news and it has to get out. And let's see if my video seemed to have stopped. Did my video stop? Maybe it did stop. Let's see if my video seemed to have stopped. Did my video stop? I'll try it. I'm going to stop y'all and come back on. Let's see. Okay, let's see if everything is working. Sometimes, I don't know, I feel like I'm being sabotaged or something, but it could be me. It could be me. Okay, let's see if everything is working. Okay. Sometimes. Okay, so I'm up and running. I can see. And thank you for coming on so late. It's a little bit early. Not as early as I want it to be. I want it to be 10 o'clock, but this is the time that we're on in communication with a lot of people, and it just sometimes it gets really late, but it just can't be helped unless I come on in the morning. But we've got to live. We got to live too. So, and we have to write a lot of letters. We're getting very fast at that, and we have several in the pipeline. We're getting very fast and very efficient, and we are just going to keep on going until we get accountability because we have it all. Remember, I told you, um, you know, uh, probably years ago we have enough. We might not have 100% of every little detail, but we have enough. And what we have is mountainous, and it's a robust mountain. That's my neighbor. He goes, "You've got a robust mountain of evidence." Yeah, we have a mountain of evidence, and it's damning evidence. It's absolutely confirms the collusion, the plotting, the um, criminality, the abuse of power, the obstruction of justice, the tampering with evidence, the tampering of witnesses, intimidation of witnesses, and all the other violations that go along with violating 501c3s and um, the positions that they have, because we're talking about not just some thugs on the street, okay? We're talking about thugs that call themselves chief of police, thugs that call themselves journalists, thugs that call themselves um, uh, a nonprofit organization that wants to um, that they put a facade, they put a costume on, they have a charade with their organizations to make them look good. But what they're really doing is trying to control victims' witness statements, trying to control investigations. They are absolutely targeting those that are weaker, those that are vulnerable, and absolutely target victims. Um, it is the most evil. You just can't even imagine um, what we know from all the evidence that we have, and and it really tells you that they get into these positions to control the investigations, to be able for their group, mostly family members, to commit crimes with impunity. That's what they're doing, to commit crimes with impunity in their criminal syndicate, in their criminal network. And of course, Juarez, El Paso is ripe for that, because if we don't care for that area with all our heart, it will go criminal, because it's a border city, and border cities are susceptible to border crime. And that's why President Trump's uh, focus on making sure that we're very, very careful with our border cities, with the border of our country, that we're very careful so that our beautiful cities won't be infiltrated with cartel-tied, and they're absolutely in the webs of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Absolutely, there is um, mountains of evidence to show that, and it's getting out in the news more and more now. But and I said this at the very beginning when I discovered Novo Casa Grandes, when I discovered, because in Richard's case there is this common denominator of Mormons, right? The common denominator of Mormons, common denominator of cartel-tied Mormons. And you're like, really? What's going on here? And so you learn the history of the area, and the area is very connected to Mormons because let's get a famous one, the Romneys. Romney's father was born over there near Nova Casas Grandes, not in Nova Casas Grandes, but near there. Colonial Juarez is where they have an additional temple. They have a temple in Juarez and Ciudad Juarez, and they have it in Colonial Juarez. They have, did I say that? I hope that that's right. Um, it just gets late, but they have a school. They have a school that makes you like, wow, wow. I mean, plush, super plush, and lots of property. And they even have an airport, the airstrip, that is very attached to the Santa Teresa jet port, and lots of planes going back and forth from there. And so, if you're not very careful with checking what's on those planes, let's look at the manifest. Let's look at the vehicles going back and forth over the border. If you're not careful with checking all of that, and punishing crime, punishing the criminal trafficking, then you're absolutely going to have a criminal network taking over El Paso and Juarez. Juarez is so bad right now. You have security guards that are quitting. It is so dangerous over there right now in Chihuahua. You have security guards that are quitting. You had in May alone 80 executions. And of course, the prime suspects for the executioners are the Mexican cartel that are, and I want to make this very, very clear that the Mexicans are victims also, because um, the cartels are right in the web of the CCP. They have stumbled in. They have, even by choice, made very, very bad deals for their country and for their countrymen. And they are losing their country and they are losing their countrymen. 80 executions in May alone in Chihuahua. That is absolutely, I mean, it's nerve-wracking. It's you just shudder thinking about it, and that is what is seeping into El Paso because uh, now in the last 4 months we've had a real president that takes the border seriously, and they are working very hard to control that border. But you have to understand the border patrol, CBP, has been infiltrated. There's bad actors, and they're having to deal with that. And of course, as the President of the United States, as Commander in Chief, as the Chief Law Enforcer, the Chief Magistrate, the President of the United States is a very, very powerful position, and he has to wield that position. He or she has to wield that position with great care. And so, of course, he's in this case, President Trump is trying to strengthen the CBP, the border protectors. So he's trying to strengthen them. And of course, he's trying to encourage them. And he's trying to recruit more and train more so that we have those positions filled with loyal American border protectors. That's what he wants. And so you see him celebrating the border protectors. But I want to make this very clear because we know we have names of those that are not loyal, that uh, are more interested in padding their own personal pockets. Those that are not looking into the future, not looking into the future of what this can do to the United States and Chihuahua, because look at how bad Chihuahua has become because of the 4 years with Biden, right? So, and I'm only saying that not because he had the open border policy. Okay, that's why I'm saying that. All the other stuff with Biden, the auto pen and everything, and which applies to our case too, because he auto penned a a pardon, a preemptive pardon for General Mealy, which is disgusting, which should be absolutely illegal. And they're looking into that because Mealy is an absolute traitor to this country. He is absolutely, calling China and to let China know that he's going to give them a heads up if if his commander in chief decides to take any actions. Who the hell is that? That's a traitor. That's someone that is committing treason. That's what that is because he was Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's a four-star general. You can't do that, and he's putting our entire country in danger. And he absolutely was putting the entire military in danger. And he left all of our gear, even our very sought after technology called night vision goggles. He left the night vision goggles in Afghanistan so that they can reverse technology, reverse the know-how on night vision goggles. I mean, what a scumbag and just such a treasonous, and then Biden gives him a preemptive pardon with an auto pen, with an auto pen. I mean, yes. So, okay. So I can get very, very, emotional when it comes to that because he's just such a traitor, such a traitor. And I have really, there's so many traitors in this, you just you don't have any any room at all for any sympathy for these traitors because there's too many victims. There's so many victims. And just one victim is enough, but there's so many victims. And Richard, our son, is one of the victims because it was because of these traitors, because of what they did to Fort Bliss, what they did to El Paso, what they did to the border. And these are traitors that are wearing our uniforms, that are wearing badges, that are wearing stars, that are creating NGOs or organizations that, they want to present themselves as protecting vulnerable women or vulnerable children. And yet they have no intention of doing that. Their intention is to intercept information, intercept victims' testimonies, whistleblower testimonies, witness testimonies, and we have hard evidence of them then targeting them and silencing them, targeting them, manipulating them, silencing them. And this is how they get away with their crime with impunity. And then they control these award groups, right? And say, oh, we want to give them an award for all of their good work. And what they're doing is they're hypnotizing the people. They're hypnotizing, they're putting little squirrely marks in people's eyes, right? Ooh, going like this, saying, oh, these must be good people. These must be good people that are trying to help El Paso, even though our crime is going way up. 10,000 children at a time, hundreds of thousands of children are being trafficked. We have a crazy border. We have all this weapons. We have all the taxes going crazy because of all of these rogue, well, not rogue, but they're, well, what do you call these contracts that are unnecessary, right? These turbo unnecessary contracts that are putting the taxpayers on the hook for things that they don't even need, just so some fat cat can pad their pocket, right? And so, so they'll say, oh, this award company is giving us an award because we're so good at our fraud, waste, and abuse. We're so good. They won't say that. They won't say that they're behind the scenes, behind the curtain, like in Wizard of Oz. It's all about fraud, waste, and abuse. It's all about um, grand theft larceny at the, where you legalize it. They want to legalize their grand theft larceny, and then they want to do whatever they can with in criminal actions with impunity, and by intimidating witnesses, by tampering with evidence, uh, by silencing whistleblowers. And how do they do that? They have to get into those positions as a law enforcer. They have to get into those positions as an investigator. They have to get into those positions as a command sergeant major, or in HR, or in JAG, or in the psych ward in William Beaumont. They have to get into positions in ATF and Homeland Security, in the 15 plus organizations that were at Task Force Find Richard Halliday. They have to get in these positions, those 15 plus um, positions. It's just amazing when you start looking them up, um, and knowing that that they're compromised, that they're absolutely compromised. In the FBI, Jesus Nieto is absolutely compromised. He even compromised himself with the Chaviras, absolutely. And that Manuel Chavira wrongly got in, just because like I said, there's power structures that you can even get awards. You can even get a position without even being qualified for it. And that's Manuel Chavira. Without even being qualified, he got chief of police without even being qualified for it, with the ISD, and putting all of our children at risk. And what do I mean by all of our children? American Texas children, American children. When you put this cartel tied, and we've confirmed that Manuel Chavira is tied to Willie Moya, that he's tied to Arturo Alba, that he is tied to the cartel, and he's up to no good. And he's married to Teresa Chavira, up to no good at all. And they have a bond. They have a bond with Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, and Kathleen Gannon of UTEP, KTEP, which is NPR, which is Gannett Media, which is USA Today, and we have evidence, hard evidence now, that they colluded, they plotted, they absolutely were part of all of that to target Richard, to use what young soldiers that go there, especially from Europe, didn't have a car. Um, you know, I'm he didn't have a car, um, and he went to buy one. December 31st, they targeted Richard, and the hard evidence is that Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, which is El Paso Community Foundation. Don't forget that the parent company for El Paso Matters is El Paso Community Foundation, which was being investigated for the unlawful distribution of its Walmart victims funds, Walmart mass shooting victims funds, that exceeded almost $12 million, and they were being investigated for the unlawful distribution of that money. You cannot trust them. They're up to no good. And El Paso Matters with Bob Moore is absolutely up to no good. And they were plotting. They absolutely knew who Richard was before his targeting before, as when he was a whistleblower. They knew him as a whistleblower, and this really also confirms that his whistleblower, and we've said it many times, began in 2019. In 2019, and Bob Moore absolutely, um, they targeted him, and their purpose was to silence him and to cover up his murder, cover up his murder. And it involves Alexandra Chavira and Raquel Primo. Um, and it's they are A&R Chavira auto group, and those that kept asking, like we kept asking about Richard's vehicle, but um they really target you as victims. They know how to do it. They're trained to deal with what a true officer is supposed to do with victims, but they abuse their power, and they use it against. They weaponize it. They absolutely weaponize it, um, and they weaponize the media. They weaponize the media. They weaponize their badges. They weaponize their positions, and they do it for personal gain. And they know how to do it because they bribe people. They pay people off. They offer them benefits because they're in positions and where they can give benefits to individuals. And they really create just a criminal network, a total criminal network at the taxpayers' expense to pad their pockets. It's grand theft larceny of the taxpayers. That's what it is. And if people have to die, if they have to get rid of whistleblowers, if they have to um, fabricate and orchestrate crimes, criminal actions, big ones like the Walmart mass shooting, like a fire, or things like that, and then they can report on it and twist and create a false narrative to present to the public. Bob Moore is so he's he is so evil that the only thing I can say is he needs to be arrested right away, right away, right? He is just so evil, um, and he's just created so he has so many victims. If he had one of those belts that people wear that they make little marks in, he has so many. He has so many victims. And so um, I'm just one voice. I'm just one voice for Richard Halliday out there, but I'm going to amplify it as much as I can with all of the evidence that we have, because he needs to be stopped with his wife Kathleen Gannon, sorry, Kathleen Gannon, because it's the Gannett uh, media, right? The USA Today, the yeah, and they do that on taxpayer dime, and they absolutely are the criminals, and they are just so criminal. It's hard to express how criminal they are because um, they've been doing it for so long, this fake news, but their actions behind it all and their connections behind it all. And it's these two families, this unqualified chief of police for the ISD, for the El Paso ISD, Chavira, together, Alexander Chavira and Raquel Primo. Um, these two that are A&R Chavira, and absolutely know about Richard's car. Absolutely. And lied. And how did they do it? Well, they have someone working for them. Zulinki, Melendez. Ooh, where did I hear that name Melendez before? Melendez. That's Melendez is connected to the Walmart mass shooting too. Just to let you know, that name is connected to David Johnson. David Johnson's son-in-law is named Melendez, right? Who has a brother named Jesus Melendez, the canine cop, right? So it is mm, Negron. Anyway, she is no stranger to Bob Moore and El Paso Matters, not one bit. And this is just one little nugget of the Motherlode that we received yesterday. And this is a huge nugget, isn't it? I mean, this is a huge nugget. I mean, we thought the Mayela Crucius marriage was huge. Now you know why Bob Moore was so willing with El Paso Matters to do this quid pro quo with Michael Mayela's family, right? To keep it quiet that the manager for the federal courthouse, his daughter was married to um, Patrick Crucius's brother, right? At the same time that he was going through that courthouse and having to plea deal out for what, 90 life sentences. Um, it's and no one is reporting on it because Bob Moore has a chokehold on any kind of media that's in El Paso. Does El Paso Matters? Does El Paso Community Foundation, which is the mother company, the parent company? I mean, that's the Hunt Corporation. That's the Hunt Corporation. Where are they? Where are they at in all of this, right? The Hunt Corporation. They're up to no good. They're absolutely up to no good. And, um, and I don't think that Bob Moore does anything without El Paso Community Foundation giving it an okay. So what, did the El Paso Community Foundation give it an okay to target our son? To retaliate against our son? To collude and conspire to have him silenced, to lose his life, and then to cover it up and to not report on it. And Kathleen Gannon is KTEP. She's NPR. She's UTEP. She's, the USA Today. And their A&R Chavira Auto Group, the same auto group that Zulinki, I don't know how to say her name. Zulika Negron, who has very interesting connections too. And they have very interesting connections to Fort Bliss. I don't want to overwhelm everyone in one night with this Motherlode. This is enough. This is a nugget enough to just wrap your head around. This connection. And if you look at where A&R Chavira, now they went into bankruptcy and they became, they renamed RNA Auto Group. They got rid of the Chavira. But look at where they're at. They're right across the street from the Walmart, Cielo Vista Walmart. Right across the street. Right across the street from the Cielo Vista Walmart, Cielo Vista Mall. Right across the street. It's interesting. And why is this uh, Zuleika Negron, Melendez Negron? I'm gonna have to learn the name, right? And I'll get it. I'll get it, just like I got Angela Kachurgas, um, who's also. Well, that's another nugget. That's another nugget. I'm telling you, we hit the mother load. But she absolutely is um, part of this collusion, and part of the fraud, part of the impersonation, part of the plotting, part of the witness tampering, part of the evidence tampering, part of the it's a part of the cover up of a murder of a United States soldier whistleblower. I don't think you want to be indicted as part of the group that plotted and conspired to target and retaliate, murder and cover up the life of a United States soldier whistleblower. Yeah, I don't think so. But that's what's going on here. And because of the Motherlode, last night I put out, and I tried to spice it up a little bit the way I said it, because this is serious. This is death penalty crimes here. Because they were targeting, this is treason. They were targeting President Trump. Because they had enough people with Nieto, with Chavira, with Marlon Soto Hernandez, with Tavita Nusa, with the Texas Ranger Gustavo Sanchez, with Jaime Esparza, with Michael Mayella, with Veronica Escobar. They had enough people in place to do their activities with impunity, to do their criminal trafficking, their contracts, their all of that. They had the generals, right? They had the generals, and they had the JAG, and they have the uh, people in very high places. I would even put in the Governor Abbott in that. Okay. Because Governor Abbott is absolutely stinky, totally stinky. So, they had enough people. Why would they even care about Richard? He could be whistleblowing for years and years. It doesn't matter. It's like with us, right? Years and years. They could whistleblow. And they could, they had people in the CPS. Remember Claudia and CPS? I mean, Child Protective Services. And Ogle, they had Ann Ogle in her place. They had the DES, Thomas Kane. I mean, these are all compromised people, totally compromised. Leilani Hart, James Hart, Dallas Hart. I mean, Jay Paulin, Ruggiero's wife. They had Bernal. They had Bernal. They had who's the FBI guy that he left very quickly. It'll come to my mind. that he was smart. He was like, I'm out of here. But they were all compromised. They're all compromised. Why would they care about Richard? He could just go on, blow the whistle as much as he wants, and they could cover it up because they even have people like in the oversight, in the IG. And you're like, why would they kill him? Because he can they could deploy him again or whatever. But no, they forcibly removed him from his barracks room and took his life on Fort Bliss in the line of duty, and then had to proceed with how to get rid of his remains, how to get rid of the evidence, because they knew it was evidence and they couldn't keep the evidence because Vanessa Guillen's body was just found, and it was just they were in total scrutiny, right? It was just so they didn't really want it wasn't smart to take his life because then they would have to somehow get rid of his remains. But why did they do it? Because President Trump was president at the time. Because President Trump was the chief law enforcer. Because President Trump was the commander in chief. Because President Trump was the chief magistrate. If Biden would have been in there, they wouldn't have cared because he didn't care. He didn't care. He let law go with impunity, lawlessness. He let lawlessness continue with impunity. Matter of fact, he let criminals out, and he let hundreds of thousands of children be trafficked, 10,000 at a time on Fort Bliss, our military base. He let the generals get stars that were absolutely the worst generals. Generals that committed treason, like Bernabe, like Donna Martin. But when Richard in 2020, it was President Trump. And they were trying to control a narrative. They were trying to interfere with the election. They wanted him out. They wanted him to lose that 2020 election. They wanted the investigations to stop. The investigations into Walmart gift cards laundering, the investigations into the guns on Fort Bliss, the audits on Fort Bliss, the criminal trafficking along the border, the organized crime in El Paso. You know, it's all documented. You can see it with the EOs and everything. Um, he was investigating, and Richard was a witness. He was a whistleblower, and they couldn't tolerate that. Glennon Oakley Jr. was found dead in April of 2020. Richard, July 2020. And Asia Graham, December 2020. They did not want any witnesses. And Asia Graham was sensitive because it is something that the public really cares about. The public doesn't really understand all of this criminal trafficking. The filming of the worst type of crimes against children. the selling of these children that it's so bad that now they're mostly dead. Hundreds of thousands of them just in those 2 years, 2021 to, well, going into 2023. It was absolutely disastrous, evil. And, these same people will bring up Hitler, Schmittler, while hundreds of thousands of children are being trafficked and are mostly dead, while whistleblowers are being targeted and losing their life. And you get Bob Moore that stands under this El Paso Community Foundation. Oh, we give grants and we're so noble. No, they're rotten to the core. They might give you a little nugget, but there is absolutely a reason for everything that they do. And the whole, if you are going to falsely distribute, and we have evidence, I can tell you that they did falsely distribute 100% victims' funds to unqualified individuals. We have the hard evidence. So you can say, well, there's not an investigation going on. We did the investigation. We were told to do the investigation. We've been told to do the investigation since the very beginning. Because who was it? People that are absolutely part of this group, this criminal group. And I can tell you right now, we have hard evidence that El Paso Community Foundation falsely distributed the Walmart mass shooting victims' funds to unqualified individuals. And now we have them using car lots, auto groups. Of course, they're going to use auto groups. They want to move stuff. They want to move their criminal trafficking stuff. They want to be able to create paper plates. They want to be able to target our young service members that are mostly male, and males, Richard no different, loved having his own wheels. And I would say the females love having their own wheels too. And they're targeting our military, our national security. And it's all these positions. And the reason why President Trump was their target, because he was their threat. He was the only one that could actually get justice against this criminal trafficking network. He could do it. Because we're in 4 months now in 2025. We don't have, we have an interim AUSA, right? Federal prosecutor. We need President Trump to absolutely appoint a federal prosecutor to the Western District of Texas. And we don't even have in El Paso a prosecutor for the county, for the 3 counties, the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. And you can't say James Montoya. James Montoya is a fraud. He's Mr. 2028 stamp. You can't say him. He's totally illegitimate. He's not a prosecutor. He's a front. He's a fake. He's a facade. He's paper thin. He has no substance at all. He has no authority at all. Nothing. Zippo. He needs to be taken away in handcuffs for what he did with tampering with the documents, for, trying to fraud the people because he didn't do what he needs to do, what's required. And that is, before you take the oath of office, you promise the people by signing the statement of officer that you did not take a bribe. Why is that so hard? It was very hard for him. He couldn't do it. And then when he was caught trying to live out his charade, he tampered with the documents, and oops, Delia Briones stamped 2028. 2028. Oops. That year's not right now. That year's not right now. That's what happens when you're being a liar. You're going to get caught. And the same thing with Bill Hicks. He was also a big fraud, big usurper. I call him the usurper. I didn't give him that name, y'all. A watchdog gave him that name, and I liked it. A watchdog that helped us learn why he was a fraud, why he didn't have authority. And of course, with our open records, it became very clear. We got the hard evidence, and it was like, yep, he's a usurper. They have no authority. And that's why you didn't see the Walmart mass shooting case go forward. That's why, the cases he chose were, it was very, very careful because he had no authority to do anything. And this is what the problem is, because taxpayers are being charged to have a prosecutor, and they don't even have a prosecutor. There's a big con job going on in El Paso. They don't even have a prosecutor. So it is very important and very, we have enough, we have plenty, and we've been very busy getting even more, and we're about to drop some audios again. Those are coming. Shocking again. But we have lots of audio, and we want to share some of that audio with you because you need to fight, fight, fight. You need to fight, fight, fight. You need to write. You need to do it legally with us. We're every day writing letters. And, the first one or two are, a little bit, burdensome or whatever. But, you get the hang of it. You get the hang of it, and it becomes very, very worth it. Because within, and it sounds like I'm dismissing our government, right? But within all of these positions, not every Texas Ranger is a bad Texas Ranger. Not every one of them is like a Gustavo Sanchez that's compromised, right? So we're still in communication with the Texas Rangers. Not every FBI agent is like Nieto, right? Not every FBI agent is like him. Compromised, totally compromised, and compromised with Chavira, right? Not every lieutenant colonel is compromised like Bradford Bugado. And, so the system, even with these bad actors, it's the way to go. Because we have enough bloodshed. We have enough pain and loss of life. And we don't have We don't have a lot of population, you know. All of that talk about overpopulation was all bunk. Was all bunk. And we don't have. We're losing so many lives. And we need to stop it. We need to do things the legal way, but I can tell you this, that those that planned and connived and plotted and conspired together to hurt our hero soldier, our son, Richard Halliday, are looking at the death penalty. Rightfully so. Rightfully so. And Bob Moore used his position for evil. And he has the eyes and ears of the population because he's the press. He's the media. And so what he has done is severely criminal. And you know, not everybody gets held accountable the same way. If you are a general, you're held to a higher accountability. If you are a journalist and you are misusing your position and all the benefits of that position to do evil like Bob Moore has done, and not just in Richard's case, in many cases, like the Walmart case, right? The Mayela Crucius marriage, for an example, and there's the fire. There's many for personal gain, and here he is, part of A&R Chavira from the very beginning of Richard's case, the very beginning. Wow. You know what that means? He was in on it. He was in on it. He was in on all of it. In on all of it. And the main target, of course, they targeted Richard. They silenced Richard. But his spirit, you know, they don't believe in the risen Lord, these people, but we do. And the risen Lord it's an example that they can't just get rid of somebody. You see, they could never get rid of Jesus, and they could never get rid of Richard. And this is their total nemesis, is their lack of truth. And that there's something beyond. That there is the great judge, the great lawmaker, the creator of all things, and that's their great weakness, is they don't understand the risen Lord. So they'll never get rid of Richard, and you see the truth that's coming out with all of this. And Bob Moore's wickedness is being revealed. So, and I don't want to leave out the Chaviras out of this, or Kathleen Gannon, who's the wife of Bob Moore. I just, it's, that Bob Moore has so much to answer for because he's done so much evil. And I'm sure, yeah, if he's associated and they're associated with him, uh, that's not good. That's not good at all. That's not good. And of course, they're associated with Nidal Baem and with Texas Ranger Gustavo Sanchez, who are all up to no good. It's so toxic. But El Paso's worth fighting for. Of course, our son's worth fighting for. And they went after our whistleblower, Judge Roger Rodriguez. They went after him. Bob Moore went after him. KTEP Kathleen Gannon went after him with Angela Kachurga. And we read those articles, and it was stinky. It was like they're lying. They're lying. And the reason why is because of what we have been going through with Richard. We knew that he had developed a false narrative about Richard. And so and then using Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, who was one of those that was unqualified and got all kinds of money from the victims' funds, and she was not even qualified to get it. And of course, related to Danae Katzen, and of course, Bob Moore used Leilani Hart, who is a prime suspect in the murder case of our son. That's who he used for sources to go after the whistleblower in Richard's case. I mean, it was just so obvious. It was so obvious that he was wicked and that he was developing false narratives, framing some kind of story that would protect his criminal activity. And now we know part of his criminal activity is A&R Chavira Auto Group. And auto groups, they can be used, commonly known to be used in all kinds of criminal trafficking and money laundering. So thank you so much, Anicia, for coming on, and your prayers and your love. And we're just going to give another nugget again, as it's just hard to absorb, and write all the complaints first. But I think this is a big one, and I hope that you share it. Please share this, and we will be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for all your support.